Welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming. This is our first in our series of industry-focused AI conversations. We're going to be sitting down with visionary founders who are putting AI to work in the real world. And so I'm Andy Ballister. I'm the Chief Product Officer of EyePop.ai. We're a self-service AI platform designed to make it easy for people and businesses of all technical levels to create apps and detailed analytics based on perception AI. And I'd love to introduce you to Mehran. And so, Mehran, can you tell us about the mission of Healthspan AI and how'd you find yourself on that mission?
Thanks, Andy. Absolutely. It's good to be with you and everybody on the webinar. My name is Mehran Hamidi, and yes, the mission of Healthspan AI, the short version is extend healthy living years, and I'll explain what that means in a moment. My kind of background is I got a biochemistry degree at UCSD and worked in molecular biology at the Salk Institute in La Jolla. A lot of people are probably familiar with it with the San Diego audience. I thought I was med school bound, but I did something completely different instead of going to med school. I co-founded two separate companies in an apartment. The first one was an early stage social media platform in the Web 1.0 days. We raised $70 million and filed to go public. Unfortunately, never became a public company because the market crashed in April of 2000, about 25 years ago when we filed. And it was a very interesting learning experience that our first startup. We started a second company. It was in the mobile communications and mobile app space. And we didn't raise any venture capital for that company, bootstrapped it, but generated over $100 million in microtransaction revenues and such. And so they're interesting story. And as I was really focused on work over the years, I noticed that starting with my parents, but a lot of people around me, were having deteriorating health pretty rapidly. My father passed away from leukemia. My mother has about 17, 18 years ago contracted Parkinson's disease. So many people around me saw people, their family, friends, have these debilitating diseases. And I was like, what can be done about this? And I started looking around and found some statistics. As of this moment, the typical person in the US lives to 66 years in reasonably good health. Obviously, there's lots of exceptions, but on average. Then they spend another 11 years with one or multiple chronic conditions, what we call deteriorating health. And because of the number of people getting older, we call it a tidal wave of misery, to the point where this chronic disease epidemic is so bad that by the year 2050, 25 years from now, 65% of everyone over 50 and above will have at least one chronic disease. Think about that. 65% of people that you see walking the street, 50 or above, are going to have at least one chronic disease, and all the health impact, the financial impact, personal impact. Meanwhile, the healthcare system is really not healthcare. It's more like sick care, whereby 90% of $4.5 trillion spent on health is to treat disease, not prevent or really kind of do testing or any of that stuff. 90% is just treating disease. So the net result of all this is, as I said, the typical person spends 11 years in poor health. And as we look at these chronic diseases, 9 out of the top 10 chronic diseases, the common element, the number one cause of it, is this complex thing we call aging. Okay. So along with a couple of co-founders, one of whom was actually on this call, we started looking at this complex thing called aging, the field of longevity, which is really burgeoning. And we thought, how can we really make an impact in stopping this tidal wave of misery? So what we ended up doing is we created a platform that's still somewhat in stealth mode, but we'll be coming out of it pretty soon, whereby, first of all, we initiate a tremendous amount of testing, right? Everything from your blood work, your genetic predispositions, even wearables and continuous glucose monitoring data, your epigenetics, your gut microbiome, cancer detection, cognition, basically all these things impact each other. And there's something called systems biology and the complexity of one aspect of your health and biology impacting other components. So we decided to really go to the best of breed entities that do this kind of testing and collect all the data in one platform. And we haven't quite seen any companies. We know all the players that are doing certain things in the industry. We haven't seen one company that's doing it to this level of not only comprehensiveness but also scientific validation, things like aging biomarkers and things of that nature. And then the plan that we have is for us to really look at all this data and how we can, really in a preventative fashion, help people live healthier lives for longer. Really, really, that's the mission of
Excellent.
what we're doing with Healthspan AI.
Fantastic. And one of the things that comes through in your product very clearly is that focus on personalized data to drive health outcomes. And one of the health outcomes that or prevention uh, tools that is in Healthspan AI is around nutrition and especially personalized nutrition. Now, you
Yes,
tracked your meals for 7 years, is that right? So,
I
how does
did.
meal tracking start to help to drive better outcomes for people's health?
I'm this outlier where next Tuesday, it literally will have been 7 years that every day of my life, I track everything that I eat and my fitness as well, my exercising and such in my Fitness Pal app. And that the whole reason is that, look, how can I track this thing? How can I have optimum weight, health, mental acuity, energy, things of that nature? And I'm constantly experimenting with those things. And even the fact that I know so much about it now, even I sometimes feel like I have challenges. So it's like, how can I get all these aspects of my health to kind of work together so I have, the best health and energy and mental acuity? That's what I've been focused on.
Excellent. And for everyone here, we'll be seeing a sneak preview of the HealthSpan product a little bit further down in the webinar here. But as an expert meal tracker, what are some of the hard parts of that process that you found over the last 7 years?
There's times when, I kind of like have cheat days or I kind of, just, I know in the back of my mind that if I eat too much, obviously the nutrition is really, really important. Exercise is obviously super important, but the nutrition is what really drives it. And the thing is that, I have some goals, especially with weight and, energy. And sometimes when I slip, I know it's not going to be a good week because I kind of measure things. And I'm like, okay, how do I stay a little bit more consistent with it? That the consistency. But there's behavioral factors and motivational factors that I use that we built into our platform that will help you have the right kind of habits.
Excellent. And what role does AI play right now in HealthSpan AI, and how does that improve outcomes for folks?
So the way we're designing it is that I mentioned that we have a tremendous amount of data that we're collecting, and all of these things impact each other. What's in your gut microbiome, the microorganisms, impacts certain aspects of your health, and so many other things. So the way we're designing these using LLMs and machine learning algorithms and stuff, and we have still a long way to go to really, really collect the right amount of data. As you know, it takes a tremendous amount of data for you to have some impact. But the way we're designing it is using AI to really look at the complexity as well as the interactions between all these aspects of your biology and your health. And then utilize that to provide personalized health journeys, based on so many of these factors, ultimately.
Yeah, and we've talked a lot about those personalized dispositions and deficiencies and differences in microbiomes. What are some examples of some things that people may have in their genetic makeup that they aren't maybe properly taken care of because they're, like myself, I'm more on a one size fits all. Like I track my macros and like,
Yeah.
especially protein and sugars. But I don't have anything specific to me. And so what are some of those types of things that you can do with the data?
Great. I'll give you an example of that. As I analyze my, genetics and genomics data, just one simple example is I have something called choline deficiency. which is really important choline for not only mental health, heart health. Is I have a genetic predisposition for choline deficiency. So that's just like that one thing. If we can identify it, and then as you'll see in a moment, give the individual meal plans and the understanding of how this impacts their health overall, that's what we're trying to drive at.
Excellent. Fantastic. Well, can we see a demo of what the product looks like behind the scenes?
Absolutely. So I mentioned that we collect, and this is kind of a demo version of it, but I mentioned, if I can show it 1 second here. Andy, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So I mentioned that here we are, and we collect all this data, right, within our platform, everything from your DNA, your lifestyle factors, epigenetics, blood biomarkers, obviously, diet, fitness, sleep, and mental health, we really track. And one of the core things that we do from an aging perspective is that we use very sophisticated formulas, including actuarial tables that life insurance companies use to predict health outcomes and frankly, morbidity, to really predict, for example, this person can expect reasonably to live to 79 years. That's their lifespan. But we can make recommendations that they can gain for up to, believe it or not, 33 years in this case, if they do some of the right things. Uh, Also, their health span as it stands is slated to be 67 years, the number of years in good health without the presence of chronic diseases. And they have an opportunity to do the right things and gain an additional 28 years on that. So we recommend diet plans, fitness plans, sleep plans, mental health plans, and so many other things that we're adding in an iterative fashion so that we help them see, look, if you just eat the right things and just follow this plan, you'll start to see, you hitting milestones, and you'll start to see you're getting results. And that's a motivational factor for me, right? If I can see that I'm doing this and it's really working, it's doing well for me. And just with this diet plan, I can add 5.6 years to my life and 5 years to my health span. Wow, what a motivating factor for me to follow this stuff. So to show you one example of this is the meal plan for this person, where we recommend, these are primarily right now based on genetic predispositions. So you see what we recommend, goat cheese, tomato, and olive triangles, just based on this person's lycopene deficiency and some other deficiencies for dinner. Okay. And so we recommend these things, we help them track it. And again, Andy, you mentioned it, that it is, most meal plans are very, very generic. This is personalized right now based on this person's genetic predispositions, but we are adding so much more to it as we get that data. Their gut microbiome, their epigenetics, meaning which genes in their body get expressed, and how do those show up as what we call phenotypes. Things like, there's so many factors, the proteins that you may be missing. So many of these things that we're adding, your blood work, obviously, we have very extensive blood work testing. So we continue to gather data to provide, meal plans and the other plans that you saw to really help them go down this journey and proactively extend their health and healthy years. And then to touch on your point about the AI component, one other component is that we now have an AI personal health companion. We call her Healthena, okay? Where she'll help you stay on track. And you can ask her any questions, and I can show a different example in a kind of a, on a different page of how I'm going to ask her a question and what she answers for me. But the whole point is that she'll help you stay on track. One crude example that a colleague used is, think of her as Siri or Alexa or some of these latest AI tools for your personal health. So she'll be there with the journey with you, Healthena.
Great. And so this is a AI that not only is trained for this use case, but Does it have access to your personal data so that that is the context by which it's recommending certain things?
Yes, exactly. And let me show you one just case study of that, which is this thing that I'm going to share now. Give me one moment to share this page. And that is, okay, one second here. This is an example that I'm showing of a couple of my own genetic and epigenetic predisposition. So I mentioned one of the things that in our extensive testing, I have a lipid problem and something called VLDL, very low density lipoprotein, these small molecules that if I don't, proactively address, it's going to be a cardiovascular risk for me. So she, and through the course of our testing, these are specific recommendations for me, whether it be saturated fats and sugars intake that I'm, recording, my exercise routine, my weight, my sleep, my next appointment and test, all of that is being tracked. Okay. Another test that I did is part of my epigenetics, which is a measure called the Dunedin pace of aging. I don't know the audience if they know some of these factors. Some of the big names in the industry are talking about these things. And for me, for every year that I age chronologically, I age 0.97 years biologically. So it's good that I'm less than 1 to 1. I'm aging slightly lower, slightly slower than my chronological age. But here's recommendations. The person in the world that has the slowest pace of aging, you guys may know the name Brian Johnson, and he's making a lot of noise in our industry and doing some interesting things. He's at 0.54. So what are specific things that our platform and Healthena recommend that I can reduce my pace of aging? Okay. And so these are some of the things that we're building in here. And if you want to see an example of Healthena in action,
Sure. Yeah.
here I am. So I can ask her either via text or voice. Let me try with voice, and hopefully everyone can hear this. So one second. Healthina, what can I do about my choline deficiency as it relates to my nutrition?
Oh, you may need to allow a microphone.
Yeah, the microphone's not working. Let me just type it for. I mean,
Sure.
the sound is quality is not that good for some reason. But I assure you that you can speak to it as well.
To address a choline deficiency, you can incorporate foods rich in choline into your diet such as eggs, liver, salmon, and broccoli. Additionally, you may consider taking choline supplements after consulting with a healthcare provider.
So there's something wrong with my microphone all of a sudden, but you kind of get an idea of what she's telling me to do. This
Yeah,
type.
absolutely. It's excellent. And so, as you were building towards this vision, what sort of roadblocks did you have in implementing AI tools and bringing this vision to life?
Good question. I mean, it's a pretty complex thing. You can imagine all this data that we're bringing in and kind of understanding the science of it, also what medicine accepts, things like FDA approvals for interventions and things of that nature, and then
Hmm.
tying all that in using AI to create personalized journeys. That's a really sophisticated and complex task, putting all that together. But we're using some tools that exist out there. Obviously, generative AI has exploded the last couple of years. And we're hopeful that we can really tackle this complex problem over time.
Awesome. And one of the things, yeah, we're going to talk about today is how does vision AI play a role? And so, what were some of the hard parts of looking at trying to implement vision AI into what you're doing um, so
Yeah.
far? Yeah.
Yeah. What one of the key things is this thing that, as a matter of fact, one of the attendees, if they're here, I noticed that they mentioned this in on LinkedIn, which is, even though I've recorded everything I eat for 7 straight years every day of my life, it's very inconvenient. And sometimes I even forget and I'm like, what did I eat yesterday? And so working this with computer vision, with specifically with EyePop and with the great work that you guys are doing. And, we're building, we're working towards building this functionality whereby we can scan, whether it be nutrition labels or literally pictures of food. Let's say I have some granola and some raspberries in a bowl for my breakfast, taking a picture and then using the technology to kind of, bring in all the data, all the macros, all the key information, so we can plug it into our platform and use it as a tool to stay on track with these nutrition plans that we're recommending.
Very cool. Yeah, that's what we love is our role is to play that part of providing companies like yours good data. And we're not going to be experts in health tech, but we can be experts in helping health tech get access to data within images and videos. So that's awesome.
Thank
Um,
you.
have you tried other computer vision tools in the past, or you're really just AI in the past that you've tried, and what worked and what didn't work?
I've played around with some, but when I saw what you guys are coming up with at iPop and the way you're going about it and really making it easy for a company like ours to really plug it in, I really was fascinated. There's other tools out there, you guys are really doing it right. And so we're really hopeful that we can kind of work together to build this thing to make it extremely convenient and impactful with our nutrition work.
Awesome. Well, where do you see this going? What's the biggest opportunity for AI and vision AI in your industry over the next like 2 or 3 years?
This macro problem that I mentioned, right? Where again, aging causes all these chronic diseases and we have an epidemic. So if we can continue to use AI in smart ways to see this preventative health journey, and a lot of people are looking, more and more people are looking into wellness, their health in a preventative fashion, doing all kinds of testing, blood work on their own, all the stuff that they're doing, but it's all kind of disparate data that nobody kind of knows exactly what to do with, even most people. And so we're hoping to use AI to really create a very sophisticated platform to help people. They don't, we don't have to accept this thing that we live to 66 years in good health, and then we have 11 years of poor health and we're no longer around. We don't have to accept that. We have the science, the medicine, the technology, and the AI to be able to extend those things and improve quality of life ultimately.
Oh, awesome. And if AI could magically extract any sort of insight from photos or videos, what would be the most useful to you all, even if it's not possible today?
If we can extract like photos and such,
Hmm.
well, the number one functionality is what I already mentioned in
Hmm.
nutrition.
Hmm.
But there's a lot of other applications that we're thinking about as our platform becomes more sophisticated and all this data. I mean, imagine, there's so much data we're bringing in, and these correlations, and its implications even in different things that I encounter, even like different programs for intervention supplements, things of that nature. That
Hmm.
we intend to also provide like suggestions for supplements and other things that people can do. Computer vision can help with all of that over time.
Awesome. And what's something everyone here can do to, today or start today to increase the longevity that they have?
One of the things that everyone, if people are interested in doing so, if we've been in stealth mode, so we're still not quite out of it, but we expect to be soon. So they can go to healthspanai.com and join our waiting list. And once we fully launch, we expect to actually do some initial testing on people and start bringing in the data. And we do it very conveniently. People can do it at their own physician's office. They can do it at a third-party clinic, or in a lot of cases, we can send a kit to their home where they can send a sample, and the testing automatically gets done and then gets into our platform. So if people are interested in that, they can join our waiting list, and when it's ready, we can start doing testing for them and start their journeys.
Well, thank you so much. This was awesome.
Thanks,
We
Andy.
we'll have Mehran on for the Q&A session. So Please hold questions till then. But thank you, Mehran, for walking us through that. And now we'd love to show some proof of concepts around some of the things we've been talking today about how to use computer vision to get insights from photos and videos. And so for this next part, I would like to bring on our account engineer, Sharoz, and he's going to talk through both the developer side of the platform and also a way to use one of our computer vision pipelines around text extraction to read nutrition labels just based off of a photo.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Andy.
Mhm.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Awesome. Hello, everybody. So this is our EyePop dashboard. And from here, we can do tons of things from creating our own computer vision model to directly creating an endpoint with a model we already have created in EyePop, or we can create a visual intelligence report. So let's create an endpoint. And once we create an endpoint, we just need to name our new endpoint and then select what we are trying to find. So these are some models we already have that you can use today. But for today, we're going to be creating a text detection model. And once we create this model, it's going to appear back in our dashboard, and we'll have this UUID. And this essentially allows us to access this model we just created. So now we can integrate this directly into our app. We also have a Replit sandbox that you can open directly and get computer vision in your Replit app. We also have a Python notebook version and some awesome plugins. So if you have a Zapier workflow you want to integrate with computer vision, or a Bubble IO app or Mind Studio, you can directly have these computer vision models that either you create or we have created already into your product. So let me show you a quick demo of using the text detection for actually scanning nutrition labels. So right here, we are uploading an image, and in this case, it is a nutrition label from whey protein. And we're running this through EyePop's text detection. And once we send this image to EyePop, we're being returned this JSON formatted response. So you can see here, we're getting all the text along with the X and Y coordinates and the width and height of the text box and a confidence level. And now with these X and Y coordinates, this tells us how far across we're finding this text, and with the Y coordinates, how far down. So now we can start to define some rules like, hey, once we find calories on this same row, grab the numerical value, and then we can assign this nutrient value to this numerical value. So now we're saying things like calories is 130, protein is 24 grams, and now we can quickly and streamline the process of extracting all of the nutrients from nutrition labels. And we can then visualize it, do tons of things with this data. But one thing to note is that each nutrition label is different. So we need to accommodate for this in our processing logic. So here we have a nutrition label where there are multiple columns, like per serving and per container. And now once we are processing this, we want to use those X and Y coordinates to say things like, hey, once we find the total fat in this row, let's make sure that it's in this column. And that's where these X and Y coordinates come in handy, so we can define this logic and make it so that we are encountering all these different sorts of labels and making sure that we're grabbing exactly what we want for per serving, per container. So just a quick question. Sorry, does anyone have any questions? Awesome. Let me hand it back to Andy to show you some other exciting things we have upcoming.
Great. So yeah, that was a look at really more the developer side of the platform. When you have images and videos, you can pass them to EyePop to return structured data in that JSON. But this is a really exciting moment today because on the demo I get to show you all, it's one of our first products that is truly no code out of the box. It's the first look of a new series of rollouts that we are doing at iPop around our image and video agent. So we just launched our report tool, and that lets you extract properties and ask questions across a batch of the images and gives you a CSV and visual report. In this demo, we're going to be show how it can be used on really unstructured data. So just pictures of people's meals to unlock powerful insights around everyday food items. And so let me now share my screen, and I'm going to run this. Here we go. And so I believe everyone can see my screen here. So again, we're on the iPop dashboard. I'm going to go to create report. I'm going to type in the name of our report. And one of the things that we're looking for here is a main part of the image. And so in this image, the focus is the meal. And so people have taken pictures of their meals, and we're going to be uploading, some test healthy meals and some test unhealthy meals. And we're going to be looking at some of the properties. And so I'm putting in some properties here where um, we're looking at things like macros. We're looking at, more unstructured things like what are all the foods that we find, and what are their weight in ounces, and so that we can tie into other sources of data after the fact. And so once I've entered my properties here, then I can go ahead and 1 second. Great. And so now I can start uploading images into this right away. Now, right now, the first release of this product is using batches of images that you have that you'll upload into a data set on iPod. Some of the future releases are using videos as a source of data, using cloud storage like S3 buckets, Google Drives, etc., as sources of data. We do have a dataset API, and so if you want to change how you ingest data into this set, we can be more programmatic about ingestion and kicking off these reports. We're also coming up with a pingable API in around 3 weeks, where you'll be able to just ping one image at a time. And so we can see here, I'm done uploading, and you can see the meals there. And so I'm going to go ahead and click confirm. We're generating this report now. And so this is going to take a couple of minutes here. So I'm going to do the cooking show thing and flip back to an already done report. You can see some of the reports here that we can use this tool for. It is a very open generic tool, and we can use it in a wide variety of use cases. And so we're going to go and view our report here. And so I'm going to pause for a second here. And so you can see um, some of the things that we're getting out of here. And so for this meal, we're getting list of foods present. One thing I didn't put in our test report there is common allergens, but we can have the AI start to identify those types of things. And then, of course, like an estimate on calories and protein and sugars. Now, what we may want to do, especially for specialized data, you're going to be better experts at your data than we are. And so maybe it's just tying in the list of foods present and creating more detailed report, pinging your own database around those things. But we can give some generalized guidelines for quite a lot of different properties out in the world. And so let's take a look at another one, quote unquote, healthy meal here. We have what's listed there. We have some common allergens, and we're able to look at some macros there. And so that's our reports tool. It is open for business, and so you can go on and actually try that out today for a wide variety of use cases. It is really powerful, so we're very excited to get that out in the world. It takes a lot of the initial work out of creating a insights around visual data. And the great part is it's very combinable with the other parts of our system. So if there are other more quantitative insights that you need, like where is this food, or where are certain foods in this image, or how much of the image does this food take up relative to the size of the plate. Those types of localization problems, or where objects are in an image, that's all combinable with these reports. And so through our SDK, you can really combine quite a bit of different things. And so at this point, we've got a really good amount of time for questions. So I'd like to open it up to the floor, and love to hear your questions about Healthspan AI, about EyePop.ai. If you want to share what you're trying to build, or some just inspiration of what you're looking for from like the AI and health tech space, I'm happy to discuss that now.
Hey, Andy. Quick question. So as you know, I'm now in the event space, and one thing I've
Yeah.
been thinking through as I was watching the demos, one of the painful things when you go to an event is when you have to check in and somebody's like looking up your name and all of that. Could we use iPop to just literally look at people as they come in, and then it pops like, "Hey, you are on the list, go in," like something like that? Would that be a use case?
One of the things that we don't have integrated into the system now is like Face ID or person identification in that way. But there are other sorts of things that we've helped companies use around identification, like using badges or business cards to identify folks if they have certain identifiable features, like they're wearing a QR code, or they have a certain wristband. Those types of things that our platform has looked for, and could be good for the types of event sort of things that you're looking for there. But yeah, we work on iPop also works with live stream. And so if you want to have a live feed just feeding into your pipeline and getting dozens of frames per second sort of inferences, that's something that we can do. I see some questions in the sidebar. How accurate is the weight estimation? That one we are producing a case study around. We find it pretty good. That some of the things that would fool a human are the same things that are going to fool the AI. And so if your plate is extra small, or the foods are different sizes than you would expect normally, that's going to throw off some of the weight estimation. And so what the AI is looking for there is for a standard plate and for standard food sizes, using those as a reference to the other foods that are there. And so it's giving a good judge of that. Now, there are some things that a person would just not know from looking at a picture of food. Not all dressings are the same. Not all sauces are the same. What's on that burger? There could be anything on that burger if we don't see some of the toppings in there. And so it's going to have some incomplete information, but it's going to do its best to make those guesses. In the reports tool specifically, it'll where it is not able to guess, or it has lower confidence in guessing, we're just not going to return anything. And there's some configuration that you can do around that. Okay, great. I see Seamus has his hand up.
Yeah, I guess my question is for Mehran. So regarding the AI that's integrated into Healthspan, are you feeding users like health data into that AI? And if so, do you have an AI cloud provider that's set up for like HIPAA compliance?
The answers to both questions are yes. We're kind of building all that infrastructure to where we really kind of seamlessly bring in all these types of data. And then obviously we're extremely concerned about HIPAA compliance and data security and things of that nature. So we're setting up the cloud infrastructure with all those things in mind.
Can you specify what AI backend you're using that's HIPAA compliant?
We've been looking at a lot of tools, and I can't share that this moment, Seamus. If you want to reach out to me,
Okay.
I can kind of share it a little bit offline because we're right in the midst of some of those decisions and we're testing certain things. But I can share that with you once we get a little bit further along in those
Sounds good.
decisions. Yeah, as you know, it's pretty complex, and there's a lot of choices out there. There's some platforms that are really interested in our business and the scope of what we're doing. So we're just kind of working through some of those things right this moment, actually.
All right, I see in the chat for Mehran, how do lipid metabolism and sugar metabolism correlate in displaying something that needs attention, and then what recommendations get made?
I didn't catch the question. Oh, okay, I'm reading it. How do lipid metabolism and sugar metabolism correlate in displaying something that needs attention, and what recommendations get made? So those things are very correlated, Sina. And I'll give you a personal example of that. My LDL subfractionation profile that you saw, the small molecule LDL, a component of that is my sugar metabolism, and I happen to have a sweet tooth, right? So that's a perfect example of the systems in the body that impact each other. And one of the things that I'm trying to do to address it is really, really cut my sugar intake to as close to zero as possible, as a simple example of that. But they're very, very correlated, lipid and sugar metabolism. And that's why when we track, one of the other things I'll mention, Sina, is that we also have very customized testing intervals. So for me, how often do I measure my LDL subfractionation profile? How often do I measure my metabolic panel with my blood work? My health system typically only does it once per year. But for me, I may need to do it more frequently. So we're looking at all those things.
Excellent. And I see Frank has his hand up.
Hey, Andy, it was good to see that extended demo that you just showed us of the new features that you put in place. Really exciting stuff there for sure. Is that available through the SDK now?
That one is not available through the SDK right now. That rollout will take place in around 3 weeks. But it is available through the UI as a developer preview. And so if you are curious about getting started on that early and learning how those prompts work together with your image set, that's available now. And so you can go on and check that out.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right. Anyone else? Seamus, yeah.
Sure, I have another question actually. So I just
Yeah.
popped on my Meta glasses because I was wondering if there's an opportunity here to scan the food that I'm eating with these glasses and make it much easier for your users to track what they eat, right? As opposed to
Yeah,
having
that's
to
a
pull
cool
the
idea.
phone out and take
Yeah.
a photo of it.
Yeah, I love
I
that.
like that idea, Andy.
Yeah.
If we can make it more convenient in the context of our use case, that'd be really cool.
There you go. Healthspan AI glasses. They're just a better new
Exactly.
product here.
Branding opportunity is available for glass makers.
Excellent. All right. And I guess there's another chat around live updates from continuous metabolic trackers. And so actually, can you speak to what are some of the plans to use some of those trackers in the data that Healthspan is using to personalize recommendations?
Good question. We're really heavily looking at various devices, including continuous glucose monitoring devices. As you guys know, there's some key ones that people are using actively. We're looking at even over time. This is not going to happen, today, but over time we're looking at things like smart scales. We have a list of some of the latest devices, wearables, and then seeing how we can fit in all that data to even improve our analysis and our ultimate outcomes and interventions. So all of those things are in play. And to the degree that we can get access to that data, we'd love to incorporate them.
Excellent. And Siki asked a great question here, and this is something that I think for all AI tools, especially industry-focused ones, how do you validate what the algorithms are giving folks and the reliability of those recommendations? And so how do you think about that as you move forward into actually getting users on the system?
Fantastic. So I'm gonna give you the answer in the context of a use case. Our gut microbiome use case is the following. It takes a sample. In this case, it's actually a stool sample. It's a kit, and then the testing is done in the lab. Then AI scours the scientific literature, and the reason that's important is no human can keep up with the volume of the scientific literature. And then comes back and says, look, the microorganisms in your gut, and I have an example of this, the microorganisms in my gut that I've tested. It comes back and says, look, the microorganisms are consistent with, let's say, celiac disease, and here's what the latest literature says you should do about it. So we're really focused on scientific validation with reputable published journals, peer-reviewed papers and things of that nature. And also, our go-to-market strategy involves heavily physicians, so we want to tie in to what medicine accepts and common interventions for these things that are going to continue to evolve. But we want to be, there's a lot of voodoo science out there, but we want to be in line with the latest aging science as well as what medicine accepts in terms of recommending interventions.
Excellent. And then a great follow-up question: how do you provide guidelines to the AI around what it's using as a source of truth for that data and that guidelines? And how do you approve or double check them as part of the process as it comes in?
Yeah, that's answer is going to take hours to respond to. The short answer is that's the secret sauce, right? That the complexity of all that, and then literally looking at our CSO works in a very prominent laboratory up here in the Bay Area, and she, they do a lot of those things in terms of like their lab has done something in the order of with about 109 people studies over a 10-year period, right? And collected a tremendous amount of data, especially as it relates to the field of metabolomics, and something that they created, which is called the carbohydrate score, to Sina's earlier question. So really taking all that data, really kind of doing correlations and kind of coming up with guidelines like that, like a carbohydrate score. Andy, you and I, you may process banana a certain way and you have a sugar spike. For me, it might be a muffin. So some of those things have been, through very sophisticated studies have been determined. So that's one example of how we intend to kind of use the latest science to kind of create guidelines for the AI.
Yeah, and so how are you able to tell that? Because I've done some of the glucose tracking monitors that you wear on your arm and give you some hints there. And for the same total carbohydrates, I know my body reacts very differently to like a muffin versus a beer or a piece of fruit. The nutrition label would give you kind of similar similar carbohydrates total for some of those portion sizes, but the spike looks very different. And so are you able to tell some of those things through my genetic makeup or other testing that I'm doing?
Yeah, so it's a couple of things. First of all, as to how we kind of track those things, as I mentioned, we're tapping into the latest science, and this study that was done is really telling, because based on these patterns, they developed something called the carbohydrate score, individual carbohydrate score. And again, we can tell these, we can make correlations of how you process certain carbs versus I or anyone else. Then the other thing that we're looking at very heavily, and again, this is very, very complex, and it's going to happen more and more over long term, is how do these systems impact each other, right? Sina asked, how do lipids and metabolomics and carbs and stuff like that, how do they interact with each other? That's the secret sauce. Like, how do we rely on the latest science to see, Andy, when you eat that muffin or I eat, that piece of chocolate, how does it impact all, these systems in my body. That's what we're looking to get into. And the level of sophistication of that is going to come over a lot of work and time and building the right AI models.
Excellent. And then Remy asks, is there an API that makes EyePop.ai available from a mobile app? And yes, there is. Right now, we run, we have SDKs in both Python and also React. And so the short answer for right now is that you'll be able to call a cloud-based AI solution from a mobile phone to get insights around images, video, or live stream that users are taking with their phones. In Q3, we are working on providing an edge deployment platform. So we have an edge deployment platform right now. If you build a custom model or want to use one of our pipelines of models on an edge device, you can do that on a Windows Snapdragon device today. And so you'll see in there, there's a way for you to actually deploy right to that device. We're opening up mobile. And so while today you would use our cloud platform to ping an AI worker server in the cloud, in Q3, you'll be able to deploy those models directly to the user's phone. And so it is great for privacy and latency. And from the view of the startup or the provider of the product, it's also great for COGS to not have to run a GPU in the cloud and to use the power that's already on that user's device. Good all the way around for certain types of use cases there. Great. Yeah. So thank you all for attending our first AI industry focus fireside chat here. Thank you, Mehran. If there are any questions for myself or Mehran, we'll send out some contact information too. We love talking to startups. If you have an idea or want to present at one of these fireside chats in another industry or even again in health tech, we'd love to talk to you. And so please reach out to me. But thank you, everybody. Have a great day.